underachieving. This guy shouldn't be on the team theoretically, but our Minnesota boy from Detroit Lakes, we love him here, number 19, contributing on special teams as well as in the offense, always getting his job done, whatever his role on the play is. Solid B on the season for Adam Thielen. Jarius Wright, a man. Jarius, the price is always right. Little disappointed with his season, not overly disappointed with his season, but I think with his new contract, and I also think with him being healthy for once now this entire year, and his skill set that he's got, that he should have contributed more than what he did. A lot of that's on the quarterback getting the ball in his hands, but there was several times where the ball got in his hands too, and he didn't come up with the catch, or fumbled it away in a crucial spot. Arizona, where a lot of room for improvement. Jarius needs to get better. There is plenty of room for Jarius to get better, and he can and should, and I believe he will. But for this season, I gotta be honest and give him a solid C. Stephon Diggs, rookie wide receiver, out of nowhere gets an A-. He did cool off as the season wore on. Once he came into the fold, coaching staff really messing up, holding him out of the first 4 games of the regular season inexplicably, and then putting him on the active roster after the bye week. Or maybe it was that Denver game that he came into. I don't remember, but I know it wasn't the first 2 weeks at least, or 3. So they should have called him up sooner, but that's not on him. Stephon Diggs gets an A-. Mike Wallace, a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this one, but overall my grade for Mike Wallace is a B-. That guy provided almost everything that he was supposed to, and more, when you watch the film and break it down. The only thing that we didn't see from him was, very many deep ball connections with Teddy. Mike's got a very small role in that. The play has to be called first and foremost. Then the offensive line has to give Teddy the time. Then Teddy has to get the ball in Wallace's hands. So 3 things need to happen, before Wallace can do what we're all disappointed in him for not doing very much of this year. And the fact is, those first 3 steps were not done hardly ever by the 3 parties responsible. So you can't really hold that against the guy. What you could hold against the guy is if he's, being a crappy run blocker, if he's dropping passes that he should catch, which he did on rare occasion. If he's being the way he's always been in his past and complaining to the media about, I'm not involved in the offense enough, quarterback needs to get me today and ball, and stuff like that. He was the most perfect saint of a teammate and player this whole entire season, and that blew me away. That wasn't supposed to be part of this guy and what we were getting, or the amazing run blocking that he did. One of the reasons AP led the league in rushing was because Mike Wallace was a great run blocking wide receiver this year. So Mike Wallace gets a B- from me. That's correct. Michael Pruitt, rookie, because of the expectations, the increased role that he worked himself into, B-. Kyle Rudolph, C+. Actually improved in his run blocking dramatically this year, at least from what I've seen this year and in the past. However, he was not involved in making plays in the passing game, nor nearly as much as he should. I honestly like Michael Pruitt to take his job. Nothing against Kyle Rudolph. I've always been a Kyle Rudolph fan. I like Kyle Rudolph, but he's just not producing to justify paying him what's necessary and keeping him on. Rhett Ellison, our blocking Jim Kleinsaucer type of tight end, got a solid B, maybe even a B+. I should probably give him a B+ on the year as well. But there were now, we'll keep that to a solid B. There were several games where he struggled throughout the year as well. Zach Line started out flirting with an F, and then he got his grade by the end of the season up to a C+, actually emerging very nicely as a passing threat out of the backfield, and improving slightly his run blocking, but he still stinks for the most part as a run blocker. Don't don't think otherwise. Don't be wrong, okay? Just, you gotta trust me. Zach Line is very mediocre at best as a run blocking fullback. Then with our running backs, we had Jerick McKinnon getting an A-. Not a whole lot more that this guy could do with his role in the team. That being said, were he to have a different role and still have done what he did, grading would be much different. You got to be more productive. But with how he's used and what he's asked to do, he was fantastic this year. Love what I saw out of J-Mac. A- for Jerick McKinnon. Adrian Peterson, same kind of thing. He's graded to his own scale and his own standards. So while he led the NFL in rushing yards again, had a very good season, looked extremely good. He had fumble issues, not necessarily losing fumbles, but just fumbling in general. And he also had issues hitting the home run touchdown. He'd get big runs yet, but they don't find the end zone the way that they once did. I don't think it's a physical deterioration thing. It's just, I don't know. I don't know what it is. But those things, and then, like I said, grading to AP's grading scale and standards that he set for himself, AP gets a B+. That's right. I thought about an A-, but we're going with the B+. Definitely no lower than a B+, I don't think, though. And then finally, here's what we're going to do, okay? We're going to do defense and coaches next week, report card. And at least I think. Yeah, that's my plan for right now. I don't know. Well, let's finish the offense, and then we'll go from there. Whatever that may be. Teddy, the quarterback, Bridgewater. Yeah, you've been waiting for the quarterback the whole time. What is my final season grade on Teddy Bridgewater? This was the hardest one out of all of them, by far. The film was inconsistent. It could be a little positive, a little negative, very positive, very negative. The statistics are extremely unflattering when you look solely at the numbers. But when you take into account game-winning drives, fourth quarter statistics individually, wins and losses, grow leadership, and especially as a quarterback, and how important leadership is in that position. Teddy was a really tough one to grade. Ultimately, I have to give him a C, not a C-, not a C+. I have to give him just a flat-out C. Teddy progressed very, very little. Teddy didn't necessarily regress, but we have come to be aware now of inarguable, flaws or weaknesses that he possesses, that they are there and they are what they are, and they either need to be addressed and fixed, or they need to be lived with, and might always be that way and limit how good he can be. Honestly, all season long, this year, this team, this quarterback reminds me so much of AP's MVP year, where we made the playoffs, woo, and we lost in the first round. Oh, and we had a young quarterback that we were, semi-happy with at the time because we're winning games, and hey, he makes plays when we need him to. When the play needs to be made, he's making plays, and we're winning games. And his name was Christian Ponder. He didn't have a whole lot of arm strength. He couldn't throw an accurate deep ball. He had issues getting sacked all the freaking time. I see a buttload of similarities between Christian Ponder and Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater is a little bit better because I think he's got more between the ears and more in the chest. Actually, more likely it's because he's got more in the chest. He's got more heart than Christian Ponder has. It is the main difference. But outside of that, their style of play, their level of production, compare their statistics side by side sometime. Take Ponder's first 2 seasons, take Teddy Bridgewater's first 2 seasons. Put them side by side. Individual numbers, team numbers, check them out. It's freaking scary. You're going to be very, very scared. Okay? Now, Teddy Bridgewater did nothing to make me think that, we might need a new quarterback and, we either need to get a new quarterback or Teddy's, make or break next year. Like, I don't think Teddy's done anything to prove that he can't be the starting quarterback of a franchise that contends for a championship. I don't think that by any means. However, if he's going to be the starting quarterback of a team that's in the playoffs and contending for championships, that team is going to have a stellar defense and a very good run game and a good offensive line and some good coaching. It's going to have all the stuff where he is a game manager who makes plays when needed. That's it. That's what I feel where we're at with Teddy. And I'm okay with that for now. But he didn't really get any better at anything. Like I said, outside of, the leadership, game management, how do we come out of this game with the win? That he did improve on. He can't throw a deep ball to save his life. He can't accurately throw a football past 2 yards half the time. He struggles to freaking get a handoff to the running back on at least once or twice every game. He struggles extremely, or at least he did it the first half of the season, got slightly better with his pocket presence, his pocket awareness, just sliding to avoid the rush as opposed to just, oh my gosh, there's a guy running from that direction that I see. I need to take off and run a certain direction. Not necessarily scramble, but I need to run for a couple steps and then I can stop and reset up and throw, and then, still no advancement whatsoever in reading a defense, reading his progressions on his receiver routes. Oh my gosh, there are so many things to work with yet on Teddy. That being said, we were still 11-5, and had we just not wet the bed at the end of the Arizona game, we'd have been the number 2 seed with a first-round bye in the playoffs this year. So that's what we can accomplish with Teddy, as good as he is right now. And a lot of the things that are wrong with him, are improvable, one would think. So that is why I'm super torn on it. It's extremely difficult, and ultimately I either have to give him a C or I have to give him an I for an incomplete. But we'll give him a standard passing C for this year. All right. Well, I started this. I guess I better finish it, huh? Let's do the defense here quick. We won't have to go too into detail on most of the defensive players. We'll start on the defensive line where there's a lot of good grades. We got Brian Robinson, one of the low man here of the main Vikings defensive lineman. He got a C-, and honestly, he should have got a D+, but the only thing that bumped him up to a C- was him showing that he could add some depth and versatility by playing a defensive tackle position in pass rushing situations. That is the only thing that got him bumped up from a D+ to a C-, but he registers a C- here nonetheless. Moving along on the defensive ends, we had Everson Griffin, Pro Bowler, with an A-. The only reason he gets an A- is because there were, a few stretches of games here and there where he would just disappear. But when he showed up, he would show up big time. And then our last defensive end who got a grade was rookie Danielle Hunter, who gets a flat-out A. This guy was supposed to be a long-term project with really raw talent that hopefully could pass rush, if that. And he came out and pass rushed better than any defensive rookie in the league, led the league in in rookie sacks. And then, not only that, but he's freaking showing up play after play against the run and showing ability to drop back into coverage even. And I'm just going, wow, this is a guy who's supposed to be super far off. No, so he surpassed expectations, met and surpassed. He gets a full-on A. Could even